In this chapter, I'll describe some of the individuals, families, and organizations that are part of the orchestrated collapse of Earth's biosphere. When I observe the institutional shareholders of some of the biggest ecocide machines like Royal Dutch Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, Chevron, US Steel, Enbridge, Sunoco, and Energy Transfer Partners, the following financial establishments appear within the top 15. Fidelity, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, JPMorgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, Capital Group Companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, UBS Group AG, Goldman Sachs, Bank of New York Mellon, Blackstone, State Street, Berkshire Hathaway. BlackRock and Vanguard show up frequently. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and State Street are also perennial funders. These are the primary families and individuals that founded, own, direct, or have financed the industrial corporations described in this and the next chapter that are being used to systematically contaminate the planet. British House of Windsor, Dutch House of Orange, Rothschild, Morgan, Oppenheimer, Warburg, Nobel, Samuel, Rockefeller, Mellon, Buffett, Soros, Fink, Warren, Schwartzman. At this time, I'll describe how each of these families are linked to the ecocide machines that are sabotaging the planet. The British House of Windsor, that has a long line of Freemasons, including Grand Masters, is participating in this planet's destruction. According to researchers, the House of Windsor has enormous investments in Royal Dutch Shell and BP. The Windsors share directorship of some of these corporations with other financial elites that will be mentioned in this segment. The Dutch House of Orange issued a charter for the founding of Royal Dutch Shell and still exerts some control over this murderous, earth-destroying corporation. Rothschild, an international banking family worth $100 trillion, is said to run the Bank of England, U.S. Federal Reserve, and central banks of other countries. Due to its sizable holdings in the financial institutions backing them, this family allegedly commands some of the big industrial polluters like BP, Royal Dutch Shell, BHP Billiton, and Rio Tinto. Goldman Sachs, that is a primary funder of Earth's destruction, is directed by the Rothschild family, according to researchers. We saw in the previous segment that US Steel is another corporation that's heavily subsidized by Goldman Sachs. The Rothschilds also control the slaughterous Rio Tinto and dominate the mining sector along with the Oppenheimers. The French branch of the Rothschild family co-founded Royal Dutch Shell. The MI5 agent Victor Rothschild chaired the company, and according to some, the Rothschilds still have substantial control over this genocidal earthwrecker. The Morgan banking dynasty runs Morgan Stanley and, along with the Rockefellers, JPMorgan Chase. These two banks are abundantly subsidizing the industrial corporations that are collapsing the biosphere. In the case of Morgan Stanley, that would include ETP, Sunoco, Royal Dutch Shell, Chevron, Rio Tinto, and U.S. Steel, with substantial holdings in ecocide machine funders BlackRock and Blackstone. U.S. Steel, that has been contaminating this planet for over a century, was established in 1901 by JPMorgan. The company was formed by a merger of several steel corporations, including Union Steel, subsidized by Andrew Mellon. JPMorgan financed the startup of U.S. Steel, and the Morgans have had major holdings in this company. For examples of U.S. Steel's environmental attacks, have a look at the notes in the next chapter. The Oppenheimers own the mining sector along with the Rothschilds. Anglo-American was founded by Ernest Oppenheimer. The family also shares management of BP and Royal Dutch Shell with other elements of this organized crime network. The Nobels of Sweden and Samuels of England were among the co-founders of Royal Dutch Shell, along with the French branch of the Rothschild family. The founding of Royal Dutch Shell was chartered by the Dutch crown. Allegedly, the Nobels and Samuels still influence this instrument of mass execution and natural resource destruction. The Warburgs of Germany, an international banking family that, along with other factions of this criminal network, run the major banks that support the terraformation apparatus. According to some, the Warburgs control the Federal Reserve with the Rockefeller and Rothschild families, and steer Deutsche Bank, that has major shares in Kelsey Warren's highly catastrophic Energy Transfer Partners. Rockefeller, an international banking family known for its depopulation initiatives, that, along with other central banking families, runs the financial institutions subsidizing the ecocide machines. This includes JPMorgan Chase, that the family controls with the Morgans. The Rockefellers still own a substantial chunk of all Standard Oil derivatives that are being used to contaminate the planet, such as ExxonMobil, Chevron, Marathon, and ConocoPhillips. They also have some authority over BP and founded the BP Whiting Refinery that, as we'll observe in the next chapter, has been relentlessly attacking Lake Michigan with toxic industrial chemicals. The Mellons, a banking family with an estimated value of $11.5 billion, has also been involved in aluminum, steel, and oil. In the early 1990s, Mellon Bank was among the top shareholders of ExxonMobil, Chevron, and BP. U.S. Steel, founded by JPMorgan and others in 1901, was formed by a merger of several steel companies, including Union Steel, whose founding was bankrolled by Andrew Mellon. U.S. Steel has been defiling this planet for a long time. The creation of U.S. Steel was also nurtured by Andrew Mellon, and the Mellon family still has major financial holdings in this corporation. The Mellons control Bank of New York Mellon, that is among the top 10 institutional funders of Goldman Sachs, and has hefty shares in Berkshire Hathaway that are both funding the terraformation mechanism. The Mellons also own substantial shares in Chevron and ExxonMobil. The billionaire Trilateral Commission member, Council on Foreign Relations, and World Economic Forum board member, Lawrence Douglas Fink, co-founder and CEO of BlackRock, that is an apex funder of multiple ecocide machines. BlackRock and Vanguard are often among the top institutions bankrolling the calculated destruction of this planet. You may want to have a look at this chapter's notes on BlackRock's connection to other elements within this criminal sphere, such as the Order of Skull and Bones, unconstitutional and illegal Federal Reserve, George Soros, and Council on Foreign Relations. The eugenicist Warren Edward Buffett, with a net worth of $100 billion, is chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, and by way of significant holdings, essentially runs Bank of America, that is subsidizing this planet's destruction. Warren Buffett was trustee of the murderous Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation from 2006 to 2021 and donated a total of $32.7 billion to that pathological initiative. Through his Berkshire Hathaway, Buffett has invested billions in oil and gas infrastructure. He owns considerable shares in BlackRock and JPMorgan Chase, financial institutions that firmly support the industrial corporations that are being used to crash the biosphere. Buffett's companies have directly invested in Chevron, BP, Rio Tinto, and ExxonMobil that, as we'll see, are being used to contaminate and destroy food and water supplies globally, while committing grim human rights abuses, including torture and murder. The eugenicist, Council on Foreign Relations member, and Bilderberg attendee, George Soros, with a net worth of $8.6 billion, is a Rothschild henchman who had substantial holdings in BlackRock until 2020. Although Soros closed his BlackRock holdings in May 2020, he's had shares in that company going back to at least November 2013. Back then, BlackRock was among his top 10 investments, and it was reported in August of 2018 that he substantially increased his holdings in this financial institution. Soros has directly invested in Magellan Midstream and other ecocide machines like Chevron, and quite heavily in BP and Marathon Petroleum. Billionaire Kelsey Lee Warren, is a co-founder and CEO of the shockingly destructive Energy Transfer Partners that, as we'll observe in the next chapter, has been busy annihilating natural resources in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, Texas, West Virginia, Louisiana, and Michigan. Skull and Bones member, and member of the World Economic Forum and Council on Foreign Relations, Stephen Alan Schwartzman, with a net worth of $34.5 billion, is the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Blackstone, that, as of early 2022, is the top funder of Kelsey Warren's terraformation machine, ETP. You may want to check out this chapter's notes for Blackstone's additional links to other elements of this cabal, including the Rockefeller and Rothschild families, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and Federal Reserve. Although I've detected an interdimensional extraterrestrial faction beyond them, the people and organizations mentioned in this chapter are an identifiable part of the upper echelon that is using industrial pollution to destroy Earth's biosphere.